Good morning, everybody. What's going on? I know it's morning no matter where you're at in the country right now. So rise and shine with us. Get that cup of coffee with us. We are here to talk a little bit of college football today. Me, my buddies Trill and Matt here to join me today. Trill's been holding it down quite hard this entire college football season. So you know that pretty face right over there. Matt's obviously one of our regulars on almost every stream that we got, specifically football. As you guys know, our college football department is no longer. We are one big football department now, as well as basketball, stuff like that. So this is brought to you by Football USN, as well as Unwrapped Sports. Before we jump right in, guys, let's do our ad reads, talk about where they can find all of our fun stuff. We do have our shop at teespring.com/unwrapped. You can see it right there. Few items. We got that new drip thing that just dropped. I dropped this last night. Don't even know if you boys have seen this yet. The Unwrapped Fame. Got that Hollywood star on the back, some umbrella lights shining on it, one of those in the front. The Hard Counts got their new stuff. So we got a lot of stuff on here you guys definitely need to be checking out. Amazing stuff there. We are going to drop a Christmas code. I'm going to drop it, I think, tomorrow. So instead, for now, just go to use code support for 15% off your entire cart. We're going to keep that going on top of our Christmas one, so you can choose which one you want. But that one's going to stay relevant for you no matter what. We do have mybookie.ag. You can go sign up there with code USN100 and get double your first deposit. So that's definitely a huge area of us to go gamble at. So you guys need to be checking that out. Mybookie.ag, like I mentioned, you need to be using code USN100. Definitely a beautiful site. You can see it right here. See everything there. You got all types of promotions, all types of games. So definitely go check it out and gamble with Unwrapped Sports with code USN100. Last one for you guys. We do have the RX hemp cream. If you're a pill user for pain, if you just are a constant person in the gym, you're old, you're achy, you got your bones hurting, you definitely got to be checking out rxhemp.com. Code RXHemp-USN for 10% off. There's a little screen share for their beautiful website. You know, they got all types of natural creams in there, cold therapy, warm therapy. So definitely need to go be checking that out for us as well. So again, teespring.com/store/unwrapped, mybookie.ag, and rxhemp.com. Everything is on that bottom ticker right down there. All right, guys, what is up? Trill, tell everyone where they can find you. Matt, tell everyone where they can find you. Let's get off to a great show, talk a little bit about college football, and see where this takes us today.
Well, myself, you can see the @name at MBF_Trill everywhere on social media, Twitter, Instagram, MBF_podcast, anywhere on social media as well. And yeah, you can find me anywhere on the weekend just talking sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then you can find my Twitter handle down below at Matt_Skura. I also have an Instagram at Matt_Skura19. Also, check out, it's called the MCS Real Sports Podcast. Me and my great friend Caleb Conant, we upload episodes daily, talk about all things NBA and NFL related. And Caleb and I, the last couple of weeks, have been working on a project. It's called What Would You Do NBA Offseason Edition, where we recap what each NBA team has done during the offseason. So make sure you guys check those out. And we are available pretty much everywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're available there. So make sure you guys check us out, leave us a rating, and, check out all of our other episodes.
You guys know it. Absolutely. Check out Unwrapped Sports, Twitter and Instagram. You can check out our website at unwrappedsports.com. I'm at Perry Aston. You can find my first and last name as my @name everywhere. I already mentioned our beautiful sponsors to go check out. And of course, that shop, which is amazing. But let's get into some college football today, guys. Trill, why don't you start us off? Is there any particular games that you want to highlight? Is there any particular conversations that you want to highlight before getting into today's games for the college football slate?
For sure, I think we just should touch on the top 15 rankings real quick, just so everyone knows where we're standing at before we look into today's games.
Let's do it.
So starting from the bottom, we've got UNC coming in at 15, coming off a great win versus Miami. They over 550 rushing yards. They just destroyed them.
I called that on Caleb's show, by the way. I said they were going to upset Miami technically. Sam Howell's the real deal.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He's a first-round pick next year. I can already see it. Coming in at 14. What were you going to say, Matt?
Oh no, I was just saying I was definitely surprised with how badly North Carolina whooped up on Miami. I was just impressed that they were able to get that many rushing yards just as a team, just from one man. And one run that highlighted it was, I honestly gotta say, when the running back ran over the Miami defender on his way to the end zone, I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is something I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
It was being a FSU fan, I always have some type of respect for Miami, but 62-26 at home, it said a lot about this year's team to me, in my opinion.
Right. No, I agree with you completely.
Coming in at 14, Northwestern, heading into today's Big Ten title game, huge underdogs versus Ohio State. But they played more games than Ohio State this year, so there's that much to say.
They're eligible. I'll tell you that. They're definitely eligible. Ohio State is eligible, I guess. Like, it's not how that works. You don't make rule changes midway through the year because you want better ratings. My little cousin goes to Ohio State. Like, I got all my family out there. You don't think I want to support that team? I want to see them succeed. You got to support the fam. I'm a sports fan. I'm a sports, juggernaut. I'm so strict when it comes to sports and love to have fun with it. But when has that ever been cool? Oh, no. Actually, we'll just make it 5 games because Ohio State's not going to make it. Everyone else made it. Every other team. And then you got Ohio State there like, but what about us? Like, we're not going to make the championship. And they're just like, no, it's cool. You got this, bro. Like, we'll let you in. We'll let you in just because the ratings will be better. So everyone knows it. I mean, my little cousin Lucas, when you're watching it, you know it. It's bullshit. You know that. But they're going to go in there and, you'll see what happened. But that's all conjecture. If this Northwestern team upsets them today, that would be massive. Obviously, Ohio State dealing with COVID the way they've dealt with, only played 5 games. They aren't the most established team with that connection where they've been there and they had sent a lot of people to the NFL. So this wasn't like a repeat team of last year. You did have a lot of new holes that filled up. You do have a lot of moving pieces besides a couple of the main pieces and mainly your quarterback. I just don't see it. Yeah, if anything, I wouldn't be shocked to see Northwestern make this much tighter of a game. I don't in my gut feel like they're going to upset today. But I do think this game will be closer than people expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I believe it's going to be a close game as well. And I honestly think the reason why they did this for Ohio State is because they're one of the best teams in the Big Ten. If it were any other school, they'd be like, we're good. But because it's Ohio State,
it's ratings.
Ohio State with Justin Fields.
Ratings over safety, ratings over rules. Like, however you want to put it, like. It's just like you're at the end of the game and they say stop the count, and it's like
yeah, it's one of those where the ultimate karma move would be if Northwestern can pull off the ultimate stunner and beat Ohio State. Then it's like, hey, Ohio, you wanted to play that extra game?
That's why I'm putting it in here. That's why I put it in here, because I'm not expecting an upset. Don't want people to think that just because I think it's unfair Ohio State came in, but I don't know. I'm a big karma guy, energy in the air, like. We'll see if maybe this one is just Northwestern's time. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll definitely see.
They've definitely got a fan in me today, just for the simple fact that everything that we've named and changing rules literally just for one team, to me, you're setting them up for ultimate failure at the end of the day. Because once they see Alabama, Clemson, or Notre Dame, I feel like they'll get ran off the field, quite honestly.
I agree.
But moving on to 13, just saw him last night fold in a big-time game. USC loses to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship.
I'm a Pac-12 guy. I am Arizona State to the fullest. You guys should know that by this point. USC is not a real competitor. They are not the real deal. They got so lucky week 1 against Arizona State, and Arizona State they threw that Hail Mary off a tip pass into the arms of the defender, onside kick. Like, that's that Cowboys against the Falcons earlier in the year. It's one of those wins where you're just like, wow, that's a win on paper, but like, I don't think that should have been a win. Like, that was every bit of luck in your, and I don't see them blowing teams out. They just barely beat UCLA on a game-winning drive. It was a beautiful play by Slovis to St. Brown. Don't get me wrong, not, when they beat UCLA on that last second, but are they the real deal? Is UCLA a juggernaut? No. Is Arizona State a juggernaut? No. And you're going to talk to me about playing real deal teams? Like, you just lost in the Big 12 championship. USC is nowhere close to a contender, but they are better than a lot of the Pac-12 teams right now. We'll make that clear, but I don't think they're anywhere close to a contender.
Yeah, definitely. I was not surprised that Oregon beat USC in that Pac-12 championship. It always seems like Oregon the last 2 years, no matter if they're not even going to make the college football playoff or not, they always love to play spoiler. We remember last year they were up against Utah. Utah was ranked number 6. A lot of people thought, hey, maybe Utah can make a playoff run now that Alabama has 2 losses. What does Oregon do? Boom, lay the hammer on Utah and beat them up, led them to a Rose Bowl. Same thing this year. Oregon's 3-2. It's like, yeah, they had some bad losses. The bad loss to Oregon State, they don't really have anything to play for. But I'm pretty sure those Oregon kids were like, hey, most of us are from SoCal. Why don't we play spoilers to USC and whatever playoff hopes they had, and let's just beat them up. And did. They made Slovis look bad out there. I mean, 3 interceptions by Slovis, that's unacceptable. If you want to try to beat any big name opponents, if you want to try to get USC on the map again, you can't have 3 interceptions against an Oregon team. So this is a loss to where, USC will learn from it. And you definitely are right, Perry. USC is one of the better Pac-12 teams. I think, my opinion, is probably going to be USC, Oregon for the next couple of years, just because the Pac-12 is slightly thin. I
was going to say, you do got to give Arizona State, even now, away from my bias, just from Herm Edwards and the level of recruiting.
Yeah, I was about to say ASU's on the come up with Herm Edwards, but for right now, USC, Oregon could be the next Pac-12 teams the next couple of years. But
I agree.
ASU is on the rise. I love what Herm Edwards has got going up in Arizona State.
Absolutely, we'll spend more time on Arizona State when we get there. What's the next team on the list, Joe?
We've got Coastal Carolina coming in at number 12. Just had their conference championship game canceled on Thursday, so they won't be playing today. But ultimately, the only 11-win team this season, they were going to have a chance to be the only 12-win team. I think they deserve a shot in the playoffs.
Put them in the playoffs, you cowards. What the hell?
That's just me.
Put them in. Look at that season, man. Like, have they beaten the cream of the crop? No, because their schedule's not set up that way. But have they went out, performed, and were the better team on that field 11 straight times this season? Because I believe yes, including a big game against BYU. What else are these guys supposed to do? Is it just impossible for a smaller school to make the championship playoffs? It's before it was the championship, then we made a championship playoff to try and make this a more open thing, and you still can't let mid-level school get in there. I'm not talking Troy here, who is 6-4 looking for a bowl. We're talking an 11-0 Coastal Carolina team that has a big time win on national television against BYU. I don't know what else these guys can do, and they're not even in the top 10. How are these ranked? I just don't get the college football rankings completely. I understand there's so much politics into it, but just explain to me how an 11-0 team that's did everything they can't even crock the top 10. I'm just confused.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. I'm disappointed that they put Coastal Carolina at number number 12. It's very disappointing, especially when you go 11-0, and there's nothing you could do with play stronger games. You play what's on their schedule.
You play
and they played a phenomenal game. I believe they called it Mullets versus Mormons for Coastal Carolina versus BYU, and they beat BYU. So it's essentially I'm looking at the rest of these rankings, which we'll get to later on, but I'm just disappointed that they have them at number 12. This kind of reminds me of UCF when UCF went 12-0, 13-0, and they never had a chance. This is
UCF. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's exactly like UCF, where you go 11-0, you play your schedule, and they're like, nah, we'd much rather have the big schools like a Alabama, like a Clemson or a Ohio State. Don't matter if you go 11-0. You're not a big school. You're just Coastal Carolina. No one cares about Coastal Carolina. But their ranking at 12 is just disappointing. I thought for sure they'd crack the top 10, maybe at a 8 to 10 range. But having them ranked at number 12, that just kind of sends a message, in my opinion, that college football don't care if you're at a small school and you're 11-0. If you're a big name school like Clemson, Ohio State, if you're Ohio State, you play 5 games.
Ohio State.
If you're Ohio State,
games.
you play 5 games.
games.
We'll do everything we can because you have maybe a Heisman contender in Justin Fields who could potentially be a top pick in the NFL draft.
You got a big fan base and you got a lot of ratings. It's just how it is. It's pathetic. But that's why like college basketball is so interesting because you make that like 16 seed and it's in your hands now. Are you a Cinderella story? Like, can you go be the Florida Gulf Coast of this season? Like, do you have magic in a bottle? It sucks. It's like demoralizing for college football teams like that because it's like we had magic in a bottle. We had a recruiting class. We went out there. We came together as a family. We played better than any other team on the field, and we still can't get anything more than just a big time bowl game. I guess you can call it that, but it's just I don't know. We'll move on from Coastal Carolina, but I just feel like they need to come up with a play-in game, maybe a play-in game. Make them go up and get their ass kicked against Ohio State. Go make them get their ass kicked against Clemson, and then we'll sit here and say, all right, they didn't belong there, but at least they had their shot. Give them a chance to try and prove that. I don't know what you got to do, but there needs to be some sort of adjustment to even the playing field a little bit for a small to mid-major schools.
Yeah, let the kids play.
For sure.
For sure. Coming in at number 11, also had their game canceled today, Indiana. I think they've been a surprise team of the Big Ten for sure this year.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback play has been tremendous, and to me, I thought they played Ohio State perfectly this year. It came down to the last possession, and at the end of the day, I would much rather watch Indiana versus Ohio State than Northwestern versus Ohio State. But you know how divisions and everything are set up.
Absolutely. I think Indiana is really interesting. When they just beat up on Michigan, that proved to me two things: that Indiana was more legit than people were giving them credit for, and that Michigan was much worse than people were thinking. And that was a clear week for me right there. And Indiana is not a massive school when it comes to recruitment. It's not a school that you can say the coaching staff is Jimbo Fisher, all these guys that have a name brand where they walk into a room and you're blown away that they're on your couch in front of you and your mother. I just don't see that with Indiana. So you need to promote your culture. You need to get the players that you have there who I don't have the recruiting class in front of me, but I can promise you it probably wasn't a top 20 recruiting class for Indiana. It just doesn't seem like their way of going about college football. I might be wrong. I'm going to look it up so that I'm not just spewing wrong facts here, but Indiana is definitely a school that grows from within and makes the most of each one of their players when you're at, just like in any league, when you have a small market and it's tough to bring in the stars, it's tough to bring in the big recruits. You have to bring in your guys and make the most of your guys and go out there and play better with a better scheme. So, the coach deserves so much credit here. And you're right. It would have been a much better game for Indiana versus Ohio State today to give them an actual run for their money, although it wouldn't be set up like that with how college football is. But, I think they deserve a lot more credit than they're getting, the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Perry. I love what Indiana's doing. And it all started with their win against Penn State. When they had the controversial 2-point conversion that they converted and they won the game, you kind of had a sense of like, okay, Indiana's got something brewing. They have something special that they're going on. And then when they put the beat down on Michigan, that's when it's like, oh, okay, this Indiana team, maybe they can give Ohio State a run. Maybe they can. And they sure damn well did. They did everything they could against Ohio State, and they just simply fell a little short. But Indiana's got something special going up there. In my opinion, they probably have more potential than Michigan.
I got it right here, too. I'm looking at – I don't see their exact ranking, but they didn't even get a 5-star recruit last year. The best recruits that they got last year were 4-star recruits. Not a lot of them either. It was like 3 total 4-star recruits in their class. The rest of them 3-star or below, which is absolutely phenomenal. Like we mentioned, there's no way Indiana's pulling in a top 20 class. There's no way that they have 5-star recruits coming from Florida, coming from Texas, coming from California. Like that's just not happening unless they get lucky or have seasons like this, Or now the coach has a little bit under their belt to sit on your couch and say, look at last year. We can get your kid to the NFL. We can put him in a city that no one's going to do anything fun because Indiana is Indiana, and you're going to sit here. It's just like last chance you strap up, play football. It gets to the next level. It's not Arizona State. I'm not here pitching you our January pool parties. That's not what my recruiting pitch is to you. It's come play hard-nosed football for a place that takes it seriously, and we're going to compete. And I think it's very similar to the recruitment pitch that Wisconsin's been able to perfect over the last few years. Is Wisconsin a market that you want to go live in or play for? Milwaukee is actually one of the worst cities in the world when it comes to crime rate and other stuff like that. It is not a place you might think the sports are fun, right, Matt? But I promise you don't want to go live there. I'll keep it real with you right now. I'm shocked Giannis stayed for the Supermax because of the city, but they find a way to bring in a top 10, top 20 recruiting class year in and year out. And that's because the coaching staff shows you a picture like this is a hard-nosed football program. There isn't a lot to do here. You are coming to play football. Like, we are not pitching you on the city. We're not pitching you on the parties. Like, we are pitching you on our football and our culture. And I think that's where Indiana is going to pretty much duplicate that. I feel Indiana and Wisconsin are very similar programs with what they have to work with in regards to their market and school appeal.
Definitely. Coming in at number 10, we've got Oklahoma, who I feel is way too highly ranked in this situation, especially with 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Early season loss to Kansas State, and then another loss the following week to Iowa State. To me, they're giving them the name brand at this point, same way with Ohio State. You're getting a lot of credit off of who you are and who you were, not really what you've done this season. How do you guys look at that?
I'll let Matt start with this one.
I don't like that they're ranked at 10. I mean, like I mentioned with Coastal Carolina earlier, Coastal Carolina should be in that Oklahoma number 10 spot. You can't have 2 early season losses to Kansas State and Iowa State. You just can't have that and expect to be in the top 10. Now, it's one thing if you lose to better competition. If their 2 losses were to maybe Texas or to Oklahoma State, who were in competition at the time, I guess I'd understand that being ranked number 10. But Kansas State, Iowa State, really? And you're being placed in the top 10? That's not going to fly with me. I don't know why college football did that, and it's essentially like Trill said, it's only because of the name,
and especially that Kansas State loss. That's a big one.
Yeah, in my opinion, I knew they were going to qualify for the college football playoff after that loss to Kansas State, but they added another one when they lost to Iowa State. I'm just like, there's no way this team should even be in the top 10, maybe 11-10, but I mean, this just proves to show that college football only cares about the big name. They only care about the Oklahoma, the Alabama, the Clemson, even Ohio State. I mean, hell, Ohio State only played 5 games. Hey, you know what? We'll lower it down for you to play the conference championship game because you're Ohio State.
I wish Iowa State didn't lose that second game, because I would have really been rooting for Iowa State in this college football playoffs, because that's the exact kind of school that we're talking about here, where like they aren't Oklahoma, they aren't Iowa State or Ohio State. They are they're not even as big of a recruiting pitch as Iowa in the same state. They're not even a bigger recruiting pitch than Iowa. So to see Iowa State go in there would have been really exciting. It's on them for losing 2 games, but Bryce Purdy's the real deal, I think. And I don't know about a real deal NFL quarterback. I'm not going to like go that far, because I don't know if he has the intangibles and what it takes to make it in the NFL, because you saw him throw 3 picks against Baylor. It's not like the guy's been perfect this year, but you've seen him come out in other games and just perform. And he's got that competitive edge that you want to see from a guy. I think Purdy's got a chance to make himself, a 3rd, 4th round pick in the NFL and be a backup quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be that high necessarily, but I view him like a Jake Fromm. Someone that you're not drafting to take over your team in the NFL, but has that potential, even like a Jacob Eason or a Eason Stick, one of these guys where you just hope that they're going to be able to come into their own behind the right quarterback in the NFL. But Spencer Rattler is very interesting from Oklahoma, because I forgot what show he was on, but wasn't he on some big show as a QB1 or something like that? Yeah. So he was on something. He has that name brand for himself already. People are waiting for Spencer Rattler. He just took over for Heisman for, this Oklahoma program. So it's a lot of pressure for Rattler. Did Rattler play very well in the beginning of the year? I don't think so. I think he played kind of like shitty in the beginning of the year. You can tell that Rattler was rattlered, you know what I mean? And he was rattled. I don't see that anymore. I see a smooth quarterback. I see a confident quarterback, a guy that for next year they should be feeling really good about. This is a true freshman, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely a young guy. I'm looking at his stats: 2,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Much better than Purdy's stats. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And this is a true freshman, so that's why I don't know if Purdy's gonna, be something to write home about for an NFL team. But for an Iowa State team, this is your guy. This is the exact quarterback that you need to be recruiting year in and year out. The guy that is, I'm sure Purdy was probably a 3-star athlete, not coming out of high school, maybe 4. No way Purdy was a 5, and just made the most of his opportunity. And with the fantastic run game too, Breece Hall is going to be a Heisman candidate next year. So
for sure. Coming in at number 9, another conference championship game today, Cincinnati. To me, they've been a shocker coming out of the AAC this year, averaging 41 points a game. I really have been just taken aback by them ultimately. I didn't think they were this or sustaining that offense, but in a shocker year with 8 under your belt, you got them some type of credit.
Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, I'm kind of surprised Cincinnati was ranked at number 9. I thought for sure them being 8-0 would give them a shot at maybe like a number 5 or like a number 6 ranking, just because of the fact that, I mean, this is kind of once again like a Coastal Carolina situation to where, I mean, they play their schedule. They're 8-0. They play their games. And it seems like they're penalized for going 8-0, because they're not the big school. So I just think college football should have gave Cincinnati more of a fair shot. I think if they were ranked at number 7 or number 6, I'd understand that, because they're a slightly smaller school and their schedule is a little weaker than others. But them being ranked at number 9, in my opinion, is once again a slap in the face, saying, "Hey, you may be a small school and you may play your schedule, but it doesn't matter how you play. We're still gonna favor, the Power 5 conference more the bigger name schools." So
it pisses me off too, because I'm looking back on their schedule, and it's not like they didn't beat ranked teams at that point. Because like at week 2, they were the 14th ranked team playing 22 ranked Army. Should Army be ranked there? Probably not, but they were ranked there. So that's a top 25 team that they beat 24-10. And then a couple weeks later, you go beat the 16th ranked SMU convincingly, 42-13. You're number 9. Then you beat Memphis convincingly. You're 7. Then you beat Houston convincingly. You're 6. And then the next week you're 7 after winning. Like, I don't know how you drop one. That just confuses me. And then not just that, then you get 2 games canceled in a row, which would have been Cincinnati and Temple. They would have smashed Temple because Temple's 1-6. It would have been a joke. And then all of a sudden they missed that game because it's canceled. Now they go from 6 to 7 to 8. They're magically 8 now. And then that 8 game would have been against number 24 Tulsa, which would have been another game where it's like, if they beat them too, that's technically 3 top 25 teams that they beat this year, and they're undefeated. That game gets canceled. I'm sure not their fault, just because college football is stupid for even playing right now because of this. And then all of a sudden they're 9. Like, I just said, how do you just keep moving back because games get canceled and things like that? It's not like they were 10 and just didn't have enough games to make it up there. They just couldn't make the climb. They were like 6. And they just kept being like, sorry, Cincy. Like, you're just not doing enough right now. Like, I just don't get that, man. And I know that other teams make the most of those opportunities when they come in there. But like you mentioned, Matt, they went out there, they strapped up, and they beat 8 different teams this year on the same football field under the same circumstances. And it wasn't their fault that a couple games got canceled. It's the same thing as Ohio State. Like, if you don't want to give Coastal Carolina that, like, why not Cincinnati? Like, why not Cincinnati with the schedule that they had? Like, why aren't they for me? Like, how are they not above Florida with 2 losses? How are they not above Oklahoma? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they are above Oklahoma, but like, how are they not above other teams right now on this list? It just doesn't make sense to me.
For sure. I mean, just looking back on what you just said with the rankings and how they've fallen, they haven't given up more than 20 points more than 2 times this season, and they've scored only less than 20 points only 2 times this season. So that's saying every game is basically a blowout besides 2 games. And you, like you said, you're basically hurting them and saying your wins don't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then how does that help your recruitment pitch too? Like, that's just not helping these schools. Like, how do you walk in and say, we went undefeated last year, we did everything we could, still didn't make the college football championship, but we did it. We were there undefeated. You saw it. I know you saw it at home. Like, what kind of fucking pitch is that? Like, you're going to give them that after going out there, being one of the best coaches in the country, because you are one of the best coaches in the country when your team goes undefeated. You are. I don't care what anybody says. You went out there and coached a hell of a season. Hell of a season. Like, that's why I just don't get it. You don't help these coaches. You don't, like, that's why these coaches leave Cincinnati to go be a coordinator at Ohio State or go take a step down in a bigger program, because they know they're just wasting their time. And it's pathetic, because you need, like, and it sucks because some of these guys aren't going to get other opportunities to be a head coach. This might be their only opportunity. Not saying they don't deserve it, but just with how politics shake up with college football, even coaches that are successful at smaller programs, it's just they don't have the name brand. They don't have that big personality that's promotable for you to get hired to a bigger program. It happens. Absolutely happens. But I don't know. It's putting these coaches in a box with a little bit of a handcuff. And it's just like, what else can they do? Like, what else do you need them to do? Like, can we set up play-in games with teams that should be 10 times better than they are? Yes. That way we can see, okay, they're not at that level. They got smashed by Clemson. Like, we gave them a shot, like, in front of all of America. Like, we all watched it. They don't deserve to be there, but you don't even give them that chance. It's all just conjecture for us.
Coming in, basically, I say we combine these 3 teams, 8, 7, and 6. 3 2-loss teams. We've got Georgia coming in at number 8, Florida coming in at number 7, and then we've already talked about Iowa State coming in at number 6. Honestly, the only team, in my opinion, with a shot even at the college football playoffs at this point is Florida, because they're playing the number 1 ranked team today.
Right.
I think even if Iowa State blows out Oklahoma, something else would have to happen in a conference championship game in order for them to make it in.
I agree. I think Iowa State's not going to get any favors. They're going to have to get a lot that happens for them to just be clearly handed that 4 spot. I think Florida's got a chance. I was shocked to see them lose last week. That was heartbreaking with that game-winning field goal against LSU. LSU has not been a very good program this year. They haven't been terrible, but they have not been. For LSU standards, coming off a national championship with Joe Burrow and company, it's been very disappointing. You have to, once you hit that level, when you hit that peak, it's almost expected. It's almost a given that you should be in competition each year. If not in the national championship, you should be in the conversation that we're having right now about they should be in that college football playoffs, or should they be? There's a loss there. There's 2 losses there. They're not even in a conversation for us if they're a top 50 team in this league right now. So I think that LSU did a big favor for themselves in regards to recruiting with that game. I think they saved a lot of their sorrows this offseason for Coach O. I think he's going to be able to sit down and really say, okay, we had this player opt out, this player opt out, this player opt out. We did come together. We did coach up the team. We did take down a really good Florida team at the end of the year, stuff like that, where you can use these in your pitches on top of the fact that it's LSU, baby. Look at the colors. Look at the colors I'm wearing right now. This is the purple. This is the yellow or gold, however they categorize it. And this is going to carry weight. This is where a lot of things happen. Basketball is looking good for LSU right now with Sharif O'Neal. Shaq's daughter is also playing at LSU, so basketball is going to start getting even more lively there. It's a good school for sports, so it's a good thing that they beat Florida, because if they didn't, that recruiting pitch is very tough for 5-star athletes. You want to go to the NFL in 2 years? It's 2 years, right? For the NFL, is it 3? You have to go after your three. Yeah. So you have to go 3 years here at this program. After a year like that, are you going to lock into 3 years there? You don't necessarily have to lock into 3 years now, because it is that transfer portal. Players are taking advantage of going elsewhere when their opportunity just isn't the way they expected it. So it's not like you just sit there and accept your fate. I went to LSU. I'm never going to play. Like, you see Joe Burrow, for example, who left Ohio State, transferred to LSU, got put in that spot, became the Heisman winner, won the national championship, #1 overall. If he didn't use the transfer portal, I don't think we're seeing Joe Burrow in the NFL right now. There's not even a chance. Ohio State wasn't getting him there. That's not how that's working. So transfer portals are interesting, but just to get the guys to LSU without this win, I think would have been much harder than you expected.
Yeah, you definitely make a good point there. And also another good recruiting pitch is, hey, we're national champs, baby.
Absolutely.
They were the defending champs. And one thing I want to say from watching LSU, I like to shout out Marco Wilson's shoe for throwing it 20 yards. We definitely appreciate that. Setting up K. York, who has a cannon of a leg, 57-yard kick. So I just want to say you're welcome, guys, for opening up the college football playoff field for other teams. And this was a good win by LSU and a terrible loss by Florida. This was a terrible loss. I went into that game watching LSU. I'm just like, damn, we're 22, 23-point underdogs. Let's see if we can make it a close game. Let's see if we could somehow, some way play spoiler. Because I mean, I watched us play against Alabama. We got blown out. It was like 55-14. I was like, all right, no shot against Bama. Understood. Let's see what we can do against Florida. Let's see if we could salvage any hope. Maybe we keep it a close game for recruits, and lo and behold, we pull off the stunner, beat the 6th-ranked Florida team, which essentially sent them out of the playoff. I mean, if we're being brutally honest here, even if they did beat LSU, they probably wouldn't have had a shot to make the playoff because it was a close game. A lot of people would have looked at Florida and say, how the hell are you going to keep LSU, who had most of their players go to the draft? They had a lot of opt-outs. And you only win by 3 to 7 points? Really? And you're ranked number 6 in the nation? For that, you should be down to 7 or 8. You shouldn't even have a chance. It's just one of those where Florida shot themselves in the foot. They had their opportunity, and like Marco Wilson throwing a shoe, he threw it away. They threw away their opportunity of going to the playoff, even though it was slim, even though it was a slim chance. They threw it away, and it was a terrible loss by Florida. That's inexcusable. And I know Dan Mullins tries to defend your player because as a coach, that's what you try to do. But deep down inside, Dan Mullins is like, this fucking player just cost us the college football playoff.
Absolutely.
How are you going to throw a shoe? It was a check down throw on a 3rd and 10, and you pull off a shoe. It's like, and I mean, I understand, as a player, you're in the heat of the moment, but there comes a time and a place where it's like, dude, you just tackled him for a 4th down and have a shoe in his hand. There's no reason to throw it 20 yards down the field.
These are kids in the biggest moments of their life right now. These aren't professionals who have been sat enough in their life. Like in college, these coaches aren't sitting their star players to teach them a lesson. Maybe they missed class and messed up team protocols so they don't play the first quarter on one game or something. That's what they'll do. But you're not sitting your guys when it counts. You're not pulling a Bill Belichick and sitting Malcolm Butler to go put Rowe in just because you want to make a point and just losing a championship on purpose. Like, that's just not how college football works. And these are kids. Like, you haven't been coached down to a point where you are just a focused tunnel vision machine. These are kids living in a pandemic right now where life sucks. That's the biggest moment of that guy's year. You're sitting here, it's just this big game. You're Florida, you're ranked, you're almost making national championship. You're hyped because you think that it's just this win against LSU, and you chuck the shoe. If a professional football player did that, you're not seeing the field for the rest of the game. It's just not going to happen for you, and they don't care if they win or lose that game and how big your contract is. You're getting sat. In college, it's not going to be like that, and he's going to learn a very valuable lesson because that player's going to have that follow him for a little bit, but it's not going to ruin his career or anything.
And what's terrible is, people at Florida, they're going to remember Marco Wilson not for the good play that he was. They're going to remember him for you threw a shoe and you cost us a chance at the college football playoff. It's one thing if Florida got blown out and it was just the icing on the cake. I don't think a lot of people would talk about it. But because it was a tie game, because it was a third down play and it would have been fourth down and a punt, and you threw a shoe. And I thought it was funny when the ref said, personal foul, taunting, throwing a shoe 20 yards down the field. Is that like, hey, is there like a limit? If he would have threw it 10 yards, maybe they would have given him, maybe they would have given a different one. But it's just like you said, Perry. He has to learn a valuable lesson. It's a hard lesson to learn, and he's gonna get a lot of hate. They're gonna say, you cost us a trip, which they did, but. Essentially also Florida had a bad loss to A&M earlier in the season. Obviously A&M, which we'll get to eventually, but Florida kind of shot themselves in the foot with the A&M loss as well. So, even if they would have beat LSU, I think their chances of making the playoffs would have been slim. I mean, they probably would have had to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. I think even if they do, maybe, but essentially, it was a terrible loss against LSU, and they probably won't have a chance of making the college football playoff, even if they beat Alabama, unless if they pull like what Ohio State did.
If they beat Alabama, that's a conversation.
Yeah, if they do what Ohio State did in 2014 when they beat Wisconsin like 59-0, if they can find a way to beat an Alabama squad like that, I think you might have a conversation then, but. They're kind of thin. Essentially their season's finished. But I think Trill was right with describing between those three teams that only have 2 losses. Florida mathematically has the best chance because they're playing the top team in the nation. If they can beat a top-ranked team in the nation in Alabama, why shouldn't they have a shot? Especially if Northwestern pulls off a stunner against Ohio State.
Well,
and if somehow
that's the thing. If both of those two things happen, Florida's in. But if Alabama loses, it's the one loss they have on the year. They'll still drop to 3 or 4. They'll still put them in. But if Northwestern loses 2 or wins 2 and Ohio State drops out, you're looking at Florida as your 4 seed. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But, Texas A&M may have something to say about that. Is that our next team?
Yep. Coming in at number 5, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher. Only loss on the season is to the number 1 ranked team in the nation in Alabama. And they've got a game today against Tennessee. Hopefully it doesn't get canceled at the last second. But at this point, I feel like they're almost in the same boat as Iowa State. You just watch and wait at this point. You can't really – you win, of course, but there's no real way for you to get in besides someone else losing.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think Texas A&M should be that 4 right now. Like you mentioned, them only losing to Alabama. What else can you do to be that 4 seed? Like, how is this not a better resume than Ohio State's resume? I'm going to keep shitting on Ohio State's positioning there because I think it's morally wrong. I just think it's the wrong move to do. And I'm going to say it over and over and over again until the Ohio State people that watch this just hate me. It's just not – you didn't do enough to make it, plain and fucking simple. Like, it just wasn't enough to fit within the rule book. So Texas A&M, you went out there, you strapped up, and the only team you didn't beat was a team that you shouldn't have beat. That's it. Plain and simple. They should be there. Number 4, Jimbo Fisher is an absolute legend. The fact that he did what he did before and now he goes to Texas A&M and is able to reshape this kind of team into a top 5 contending team, and they will be here because they have that Texas A&M recruiting behind him, who is a hell of a recruiter. This team is going to be national champions in the next couple of years. I could promise you that. Mississippi State's another team to look at because you could see their recruiting class is like absolutely absurd, and they clearly got something up their belt. But I just think Texas A&M is just that next team that's poised to be in Alabama. Really, right now, it's just I'm getting that hype vibe from them where if I'm a recruit coming out and I'm looking at Alabama and Texas A&M, I'm thinking about it. If I'm looking at Texas A&M and Ohio State, I'm really thinking about it. If I'm looking at Michigan and this, I'm not even debating going to Texas A&M. Michigan's not even on that level anymore. LSU is not even on that level, in my opinion, right now. I think Texas A&M has a better pitch than Coach O right now.
Well, if there's one thing that Coach O has that Jimbo Fisher doesn't have is a more recent national championship. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher has a national championship in Florida State back in 2013. But, I mean, when you win a national championship, it changes a lot of things. But on to A&M, I do believe they're the next team up. They're positioned well at number 5. I think we could all agree Ohio State doesn't deserve to be number 4. I think A&M should deserve that number 4 spot. But I do believe some losses, if they do happen, if somehow Notre Dame beats Clemson again, if somehow Northwestern beats Ohio State, I better see A&M at the number 4 spot. I think A&M is one of those teams to where they play Tennessee today. They have to take care of business because obviously if you lose to Tennessee, boom, you're done. You're finished. You're not even in the conversation. But if you take care of business against Tennessee, you've definitely positioned yourself well because essentially besides Clemson, in the top 5, you're the only one-loss team in the top 5. So, A&M, they play their schedule. They've done everything well, and their only loss was to the number 1 ranked team in Alabama, which they weren't expecting to beat in the first place, like Perry mentioned earlier. So, I think if you're A&M, you just got to play with the hands that you're dealt with. You're ranked at number 5, which is good for A&M. I mean, this is the first time A&M has really been, kind of in the conversation for the first time probably since the Johnny Manziel era, if I'm not mistaken, in A&M. So, I love how you gave credit for Jimbo Fisher. He's definitely turned this A&M program a lot. And recently moving to Texas, a lot of people look at Texas and say, the state of Texas, and say, it's all about the UT Longhorns, hook 'em, baby. But Texas A&M, I think they got a more bright future than Texas because if you look at Texas, they got a lot of turmoil. They got a lot of turmoil with their head coach.
Herman sucks, bro. Herman sucks, bro. Like, you're messing up gold. Like, you got gold in front of you, and you still can't do it. Year in and year out. They're losing games they shouldn't lose. They're winning games that they shouldn't win because it's way too close. They're squeaking these out. Elliger is just they can't even win the Red River. The Red River is the big thing around here in Texas, Oklahoma, and they can't even beat Oklahoma. They had 1 year in 2018 where they beat Oklahoma. Sam Ellinger said we're back, and then just like that, boom, they're back down to square one. But I love what A&M has in store. I do agree with you, Perry, when you mentioned A&M has a lot more higher pitches now. I think we now get to see the potential that Jimbo Fisher has in A&M, and they definitely have a chance to be a playoff contender team in the next couple of years. So we got our top 4, right?
Yep, running through this top 4 a little quicker because we've already talked about Ohio State so much, but Ohio State at 4, coming in at 3, we've got Clemson, Notre Dame at 2, and of course Alabama at number 1. To me, the only team I'm really intrigued by is Clemson. Mm-hmm. I think Notre Dame at the end of the day is a pretender in my book just because if you have to go play an SEC team, I don't think it's close at all. If you have to play Bama, Texas A&M, hell, even Florida, I think would probably beat Notre Dame at this point.
Right. Didn't they barely beat NC State on the bandana game, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just not the most convinced person on Notre Dame.
I agree with you. I don't think I'm convinced with them either. It was interesting to see their coach making comments yesterday about how it's just bullshit that there could be fans, there couldn't be fans, they should get this figured out. What he was saying sounded like loser talk from someone that was outside of the top 4, just pissed that they didn't make the playoffs, but he's in the playoffs, so I took his words genuinely. I was like, he genuinely just doesn't agree with how they're formatting things, which I agree because I vocally haven't agreed with how they've formatted anything since the beginning of the year, although I love watching sports. So, like, am I here talking about it because it's in front of me? Absolutely. It's my job to do so. Do I physically as a human believe that this is the right thing to do? No. Do I think they're doing it the right way, even if they were to do it? No. And I think he feels that way too. And even with a chance to win the national championship, he didn't get screwed out of that. He's still standing by his word, which I respected. But if that was like, Florida's coach or someone like that, I would have been like, come on, get out of here. Now you're doing a whole stop the count thing for me here. But for him, it just seemed like genuine concern. But I'm not an Ian Book truther. I don't think he's the real deal. I think he's a very good college quarterback. I don't think he'll do anything in the NFL, but I could be wrong. I just don't think he has the arm to do so. But yeah, no, that's it. I agree with you. We're not going to spend too much time on the top four, so we can run through a little bit of preview before the games kick off. But it's Alabama as the best team in that top four, absolutely. And Clemson's always going to be intriguing with Coach Dabo, always.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be intriguing. One thing I will say, I think Notre Dame has a chance to etch their name in the football playoff. If they can pull off the upset and beat Clemson, I think we'll have to talk about Notre Dame in a different sense, more of a contender. I know you guys said pretenders for Notre Dame, which could be understandable, but you have to look. I mean, they're 10-0 and they beat Clemson, even though they didn't have Trevor Lawrence. Clemson played as good of a game, with or without Trevor. I think if you put Trevor in, I think you could still get the same result. But we'll see in the matchup against the ACC championship game how big of a difference maker Trevor Lawrence is to the Clemson team.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And we're just going to hop right into our championship Saturday previews for each and every game.
We'll do a pick 'em. We'll go real quick. No explanations on the picks, just why.
Exactly. We've got first game up right about to start, Ohio State, Northwestern. Matt, how you feeling?
I feel like it's going to be Ohio State. As much as I would love Northwestern to pull off the stunner, I would love to see Northwestern just shit on Ohio State and say, "Hey, you wanted this. Let's put the elbow down. Let's put the smoke on." I just don't see it happening. I think it's going to be Ohio State. They're going to probably win, but I do believe Northwestern will keep it close.
I just bet $5 for Northwestern to win. $5 to win, $28.25 at plus 565. It's worth throwing $5 on that, people. So go throw that in the next 2 minutes.
Exactly. I've got Northwestern. I'm not going to doubt it. Northwestern willing to upset. I think more games matter in this case.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I'm loving it.
Okay, Trill. Okay.
Loving it.
Going on to the Big 12 championship game, we've got Oklahoma, Iowa State. Perry?
Give me Oklahoma.
Okay.
I have to go with Perry as well. Give me Oklahoma. I think they'll continue the Big 12 championship trend and keep on winning that.
I don't want to just be the different person, but I've got Iowa State getting it done for the second time this year.
Yep.
Of course, another big one, Cincinnati versus Tulsa. I think Cincinnati runs away with this. Not close.
Runs away.
Yeah, runs away. Definitely going to be Cincinnati.
For sure. We've got SEC championship, 17-point favorite Bama. Florida beats the spread. That's about it.
Yeah, I think Bama wins. I don't know about that spread, though, so I wouldn't bet on that, but I think they win.
Yeah, Bama's going to beat the brakes off of Florida. It's going to I feel like I remember watching First Take. Stephen A. was kind of laughing when Tebow said, because, Tebow's a Florida alum, have to give Florida a chance. But he's kind of laughing at the fact that you really think they could beat Alabama. It's going to be Bama by probably 20, 30 points. It's going to be a blowout.
I don't disagree. And coming in with the game of the day, Clemson, Notre Dame, Part 2. Possibly a Part 3 preview. Who knows? I've got Clemson by a long shot. Like, Trevor Lawrence is going to make a difference. I expect Travis Etienne to get the job done and stop the run game. That's it.
Yeah, Clemson by 100.
This is going to surprise you guys. I'm going Notre Dame with the upset of the year. I think they could beat Clemson again. I truly believe that. I truly believe that if they match up the same game plan that they had last time they played, even though they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, you got to give credit to their backup QB for making it a game. I think it's definitely going to be a much better ACC championship game than we saw between Clemson and Virginia.
I can see Notre Dame covering the plus 10.
But it's definitely going to be a close game that everybody thinks it is. And I think Notre Dame is going to etch the pretender label off. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been labeled as pretenders for many years. Even in 2018 when they made the playoff, we kind of knew they weren't going to be Clemson. I think this Notre Dame team is different. I think they have the mindset going in saying, hey, we beat Clemson beforehand. This is essentially the same team, but with Trevor Lawrence. If we can have a good game plan from start to finish, I truly believe Notre Dame could pull off the upset.
You just said it's the same team, but with Jesus. That's exactly what you just said.
Well, I mean, it's essentially the same team, but without Trevor Lawrence at the time. So we'll see what happens. I would love to see Notre Dame pull off the upset. I hope it happens. I got Notre Dame with the upset.
All right. And that covers all of our topics for today. Everyone, let them know where they can find you at.
You got to find me at Perry Aston, first and last name on everywhere. Unwrapped Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Unwrapped Sports on TikTok as of last night. I have never felt older trying to figure out TikTok. So you guys need to check out my first TikTok that I did. It wasn't dancing. Maybe some dancing shit comes at some point from the directors. We'll see what I can get them to do. But it's a fun TikTok. Go check out our page. We're on there now as well. Check out our YouTube at Unwrapped Sports. You got to go check out our new Twitch channel at Unwrapped Sports. We were just live on all of those things. So we were live on Twitter, Facebook, Sportscaster. So check us out on there. Twitch, YouTube. We're practically everywhere now. So definitely go check us on all of our platforms. Really excited to be on a couple of those new ones. And again, teespring.com. You just need to go check out the shop, please. It is just a beautiful shop we've put together with some great apparel. So you need to be checking it out. You can use promo code SUPPORT for 15% off your order. So check out some of these items. We got some new designs that we just dropped for you. That's the drip design right there. We do have the Crown King design, the new Unwrapped Fame design. So there's a lot of really, really fun stuff that we have up on there. mybookie.ag. Please go check that out as well. You need to be gambling with us at MyBookie. It's the best around. If you use code USN100, you can get double your first deposit all the way up to $1,000 plus another $15 sign-up bonus. So you just check out this beautiful site. You need to be gambling with us. It's definitely the best place to go for that. If you are achy, if you are sore, if you work out too much, you are just lazy but woke up the wrong way, CBD cream is the way to go. So ditch the pills. Go check out some natural remedies. CBD from rxhemp.com. Beautiful website, cold therapy, warm therapy. You can check all this stuff out. You need to be telling them that we sent you with code RXHemp-USN for 10% all off your entire cart. That's all of our sponsors for you. That's where you can find all of our socials, of course. And I just appreciate you guys tuning in. Where can they find you, Matt?
Well, they could find me. My Twitter handle is down below. My Instagram is at Matt_Score19. And check out the MCS Real Sports Podcast. My great friend Caleb and I, we've been grinding through some episodes. We've uploaded a new thing called What Would You Do NBA Offseason Edition, where we talk about all things NBA and what the teams have done. So check out those episodes. And we're available on a lot of apps. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're available there. So make sure you guys check us out, leave us a rating, and check out all of our previous episodes.
And as always, as I mentioned, NBF_Trill. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, NBF_podcast. Just basically Google it at this point. And yeah, got to check out my guys' show. Check out Unwrapped Sports for sure. And we'll be back next Saturday with more college football talk.
Absolutely. Check out Football USN too. This is one of the new Football USN shows. And before we go off, it's a culture change. We're not sure which one this was about. We did miss this comment. We do apologize, Warden Sports, but we appreciate you tuning in. Shout out to him. Go shoot him a follow. And of course, we have Alex coming in with the love too. So we apologize for missing a couple of those comments. We were trying to blast through some amazing content today, but we really do appreciate everybody's support. Check out at Football USN, where you can find us and a lot of other amazing contributors putting out college and professional football content almost every day. It feels like. Finish the season strong with us. Our hoops department's on fire right now. They're about to come out with some great stuff. I know both these guys will be talking about some hoop stuff with me as well. So when we turn our page for the football season onto some hoops, you're still going to see some of the same familiar faces talking from Unwrapped Sports. So thank you so much for the love. Thank you, Trill, for holding down such an absolutely phenomenal college football season so far. And we still have some more to come for you. So thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us. And let's have a great day of football, guys. Thank you.
All right.